Welcome to Medical Confessions.
Your remedy for serious medicine. I'm Jen.
I'm April.
And I'm Scott. Today we're going to be talking about aspartame and the health problems that everyone seems to be talking about and the controversy about aspartame in general.
I, for one, am against it.
Against aspartame?
Yeah, well, I kind of explained this to you a little bit. I was excited about this episode because I have like a really, I have a lot of anger towards fake sugars and low-fat items. I do, and I don't know, I'm going to blame my mom again, but I grew up in that Snackwell's, the low-fat era, and my mom always had diet sodas, usually cheap diet soda, not Diet Coke or Diet Pepsi. It was the cheap stuff like Shasta or Tab or whatever it was, and we were just riddled with it, and I always hated the taste. It always tasted weird to me, and our cupboards were full of this nonsense. And so as an adult, and once I left, I was never again. I will eat whole fat milk and sugary drinks. But I've always just thought that it tasted weird, therefore it's got to be bad for you.
All right.
Right?
But, well, all I have to say to that is...
Well, you can tell. You can tell the difference.
No, you can. I can tell the difference between the taste.
Yeah. My aunt used to always have the...
Sweet and low?
Oh, yes. It was terrible.
Instead of sugar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I tried it a couple times and I about gagged.
Well, the funny thing, too, is there's definitely a difference. And we'll start out by saying, I had a field trip this morning, so I remembered that my job was to collect the artificial sweeteners. And I had this oh no moment an hour before you guys got here, and so I ran to the closest place I could think of to the pilot station and I went to the coffee spot, and I acted like I was just getting coffee, and I grabbed 2 of every sweetener and shoved them in my pocket.
Did you buy coffee?
Yeah, I did buy a coffee.
Oh, okay.
But I still felt dirty. I felt like I was doing something wrong, and just to equal out the effect, I didn't use any sugar in my coffee, so I was therefore it's plausible. I actually wanted 2 of each kind for the road, so I did.
But you still stole.
I did
stuff.
steal it. I felt really bad, and then I noticed when I got here,
that's 7 cents that
every
you stole
single one of them says Pilot on it. So I feel none of them actually have the brand name. They all say Pilot on it, and I feel
So the
bad.
Pilot truck stop chain just got robbed?
Well, yeah, and the funny thing is, you guys know I have a history with that truck stop.
Robbing? Yeah.
No, with that truck stop. Every time I go there, there's something weird always happens. So anyway, here's my contribution. We can talk about each kind. And the cool thing is I didn't know the FDA actually has acknowledged or accepted 5 different types of artificial sweeteners. Did you guys know that? Not just aspartame.
I didn't know about 5.
Yeah.
I knew aspartame is the most studied food additive in the history of the FDA.
Yeah.
It is the one, and I think it's just all the controversy.
Right.
And the controversy, I think, is such that the people who are against it only tell half the story.
Right.
And they don't tell the whole story. And if you tell the whole story, it's oh, yeah, I'll drink gallons of that stuff.
That's the deal. And aspartame wasn't actually the original one. Saccharin was the first one. It was 1876 that one was first.
Yeah.
And I told this to Scott prior to us recording, which is kind of funny, but I didn't realize, well, I do now, but most of these sweeteners were found by accident. Bad hygiene, scientists with bad hygiene.
Licking their fingers in the lab and stuff.
They were legitimately working on other projects, and they went home. One of them went home, this Russian chemist in 18 whatever it was. He was went home to eat and tasted.
It's the bread,
yeah,
right? Yeah,
right.
I remember that, and he's oh, the bread tastes sweet.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
That's gross.
Yeah, it is gross.
Well, and that one actually was pretty... I remember reading that it used to be on the known carcinogen list because some rat studies said that you're getting tumors in their bladders, and then they realized, oh, it was because of the type of urine they had that was causing the tumors, not the actual saccharin. So they're okay, now we'll take it off. But then there's those conspiracy theorists who are oh, they took it off because some company must have paid them, and it still causes cancer, which it doesn't.
Right.
So.
Wow. Let's start. What is aspartame?
Aspartame. It's that was discovered in 1965 by Surly and Company. Again, it was that guy not having good hygiene. He was in the lab doing some sort of anti-ulcer medication, and then started licking his fingers and was oh, what's that? And
Yeah.
know.
See, I did the same
God.
thing. I was reading it and I'm like, gross.
Well, yeah, and then now you've got this low-calorie sweetener, but, Fleming did the same thing with penicillin, right? He's just a messy dude that just had a messy counter, and then all of a sudden, oh, look, mold, and it's working,
Well, and aspartame, just to be clear, is equal, right? That's the trade name.
Yeah.
So, and this is the only artificial sweetener that your body can metabolize, correct? Because from what I read, all of the other ones are no-calorie sweeteners because your body can actually metabolize it. But aspartame is the only one that can.
Well, aspartame's 3 ingredients. I don't know the specifics of the other ones. Aspartame's 3 things that it metabolizes down to in your body are phenylalanine, asparic acid, and methanol. Now, most of the health issues that people quote are the methanol stuff, and we'll get into why that's not really a thing. But every single one of those things at high levels do cause health problems. So everybody that's saying that it causes health problems, jump on the, it's at high levels it does. And there's some pretty famous doctors. I was telling April this morning, one of them actually frustrated me because I've listened to some of the stuff and I like him.
You respect him otherwise.
Yeah, and then he said, well, at high levels it causes all these problems, and he never says what that means.
But doesn't everything at high levels cause problems? Like, you mean alcohol or, like any sugars,
It does.
like regular sugar. I mean, anything in high levels causes
Well,
problems.
and the analogy I want to use is the same high levels he's talking about. If you apply that to water, water would kill you.
Oh.
So it's like, well, sure, at high levels it does, but can you define that, please?
Right.
Because
well, there actually is a definition because the FDA, and I'm not going to remember which one they've assigned each one, but the ones that they've accepted as safe and artificial sweeteners, they have like a limit on what's a acceptable amount daily, and the limit's nuts. Like, it's like for Sweet and Low, it's like 45 packets. For Equal, it's like 25 packets, and for Splendor or whatever, it's like 75 packets. And I'm like, who's at home opening up that many packets a day and like sprinkling? I mean, that's a lot of, and it's like most of these are 200 times more sweet than sugar.
Yeah, so the specifics of that one, or for aspartame in general, is it is 35 milligrams per serving, and you can have up to 40 milligrams per kilogram a day in Europe, and 40 milligrams per kilogram in the US, 30 milligrams per kilogram in Europe, which is like 17 and a half diet sodas a day.
I got the 17 and a half. You lost me with all your calculations.
Well, and you were talking about the number of 95 packets of that per day is what the acceptable daily limit is. And the American Cancer Society, which is, most people are like, oh, the methanol causes cancer because of the formaldehyde thing.
Right.
The American Cancer Society actually says there's a 100-to-1 safety ratio on that. So not only is that level pretty high, but you have to times that by 100 before you can even get the smallest amount of carcinogen effect from that formaldehyde. And, oh, by the way, that juice you're drinking has 5 times the amount of methanol as your Diet Coke. So I'm pretty sure that
drink up,
Yeah,
and that has no artificial sweeteners, correct?
no, that's 100% fruit juice or citrus juice,
Yeah.
and citrus juice is up to 5 times the amount of aspartame, the amount of methanol in there.
Oh.
So it is correct that. Well, I guess, do we want to go through each one and talk about the issues?
Sure. Yeah, why not?
Well, let's start with the easy ones, and then we'll get into the methanol, because that's where everybody's focused on the formaldehyde bit. But so phenylalanine is 50% of aspartame is phenylalanine. There is a legitimate thing called phenylketonuria that people can get. 1 in 10,000 people have it, and you can't digest phenylalanine. So if you do take aspartame, you can get a buildup of that in your body, and it can cause some health problems. But the FDA requires that on every one, it actually says for the phenylketonurics, this contains that.
Okay.
So be careful. But go ahead and drink your milk there if you want.
Just look at him. Like a mad scientist. I took the safety seal, so I can trust that this is legit milk.
Well, what bothers me is that it's required.
My only problem with this is that it's 2%.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's actually going to change what I'm about to say, so don't.
Well,
The
it
trolls
clearly
out
says
there,
that on there.
it does,
It actually
but-
says 2 in giant letters.
Well, it does. But I was like, there's no way she's drinking whole milk. There's
I
just
love
no...
milk.
Do you
And
really?
I love whole milk.
Why
Like whole
didn't
everything.
I get
Dairy.
you legit milk?
Ask anybody that knows me well. And I've said this before, like I can smell low-fat dairy from across the room. Like, there's something about, like, like low-fat milk.
Because your mom made you drink it all.
It must be. Like, we were, like, skim milk family growing up. And we were as fat as the neighbors, like, there was nothing good about it. But I prefer whole milk, whole dairy, whole cheese.
And the interesting part, go ahead and look on that package. Nowhere on there does it talk about the phenylalanine in milk.
Yeah.
But milk has 8 times the amount
you're kidding.
aspartame does.
So, like, somebody could just die.
Well, they know, right? I mean, you're tested for it at birth. In industrialized countries, we test for that, and and then your doctor goes through the dietary thing. Because, you were mentioning nuts, cheeses.
It's a low protein diet with measured amounts of fruits and vegetables only. Like,
so, when tested at birth, if a
is.
mother is ingesting these, then will it pass to the infant? So is this
That's a good question. I didn't see the preterm stuff.
Yeah.
They test them at birth and say, okay, your body can break that down.
I just wonder, is it passed on through breast milk? So if a baby tests positive and can't...
No, breast milk does have really high amounts.
So then
and that's why they test it.
Okay.
But I'd imagine that the mother's system will break it down for the infant. So in utero, it's not really a big deal. That's my guess. I didn't read anything on that. But the second it's born, they test them. For that reason.
Interesting.
But again, the FDA doesn't require it on that because I guess there's not a controversy, so people are like, whatever.
Right.
But that's the phenylalanine. That's 50% of aspartame. The other thing in there is the aspartic acid. That's 40% of aspartame is that. Your body actually needs aspartic acid to make amino acids, all the proteins. And it actually helps your liver break down ammonia. There's a lot of things that aspartic acid is good for in your body. Some interesting things, and I think why some people look at that in aspartame is Lou Gehrig's disease, epilepsy, and certain types of strokes. People will have high levels of aspartic acid, but there's no cause and effect there.
That's what
just
I was wondering, yeah.
It's a thing, but all the studies that looked at, and again, this is the most studied supplement, and all the studies are like, there's just zero evidence that high aspartic acid causes it. It's there if you have these things.
Right.
Now, talk about, anyways, I'll get off on a tangent, but...
well, no, it all adds up. It makes sense. I read the same thing, that there was 20 different studies, and not a single one of them could correlate any of these maladies to...
Yeah, the safety factors are so high. My favorite... review, because in 2013 the European Food and Drug Administration was like, okay, enough of this controversy, it's fine, but there's a lot of people out there who still think it's not, because again, people are quoting these at these high, ultra high levels. It causes problems, and they're not actually saying what those are. And so they said, okay, we're going to do a review of this, and when it's going to be the most comprehensive review ever done. They put an open call out to anyone with issues or studies. You bring it to us, and let's look at it all. And they looked at it all, and they were like, yeah, there's nothing.
There's nothing.
And so...
Doing your studies. Ruining all the fun.
Yeah.
All the
it kind of made me smile a little bit, because I do know some people that are strong advocates about no diet sodas. And but as I was reading through the list of, coffee has it. So while you're drinking your Starbucks, bitching about people who drink diet soda, I'm just going to smile.
So there's
coffee as well.
At its bare...
For the acids?
Yeah.
Coffee's got like 20 types of acids in it for aspartic acid. The biggest ones the problems people have with aspartame that I've heard anyway is the methanol, right? Because methanol, there's some problems with it. You drink moonshine, you're going to go blind. Methanol... it's not true. Some moonshines can't, but,
we should test that.
Yeah.
We should study.
But methanol's an alcohol. Yeah. No, there actually was tons.
Yeah.
But methanol's an alcohol, and so moonshiners used to use it. It works great, but it also causes blindness because, it breaks down into formic acid or formaldehyde, which then will in turn break down to formic acid. The combination of that formaldehyde and formic acid will mess with your optic nerve, and you'll go blind. So you've probably heard of pets drinking antifreeze.
Yeah.
Because it's sweet. Well, it's the methanol, and they have lots of health problems. Go blind. People who... There was actually a funny thing. It was a study in China where these people were drinking this moonshine, and all of them going blind just before they died. And it was methanol poisoning because... at the end of the day, methanol will turn into formaldehyde, and that in turn into formic acid. But then we just need to talk about what that is, because so many people are focused on that formaldehyde.
Right. Well, and that's kind of, it's not an urban legend, but it's one of those things that people, at a certain temperature, Coke turns into formaldehyde.
Yeah, well, and now actually it's funny you mentioned that, because they were giving Diet Cokes to a bunch of military people in Iraq.
Right.
And they were warming it up, and they were saying that phenylalanine was going into their brain and crossing the blood-brain barrier, causing serotonin problems, which causes depression, which is all very true. However...
Was it just being in the desert at war that was causing the depression?
Well, again, however, there's 8 times that in milk, and I'm pretty sure those guys are maybe drinking warm milk to fall asleep, you know what I mean? So is that really a thing? But back to the methanol, like I said, citrus juices have about 5 times the amount of methanol that aspartame does, and I'm pretty sure none of those doctors who are saying don't drink aspartame are mentioning don't drink citrus juice.
Right.
You know? So some of the specifics on the numbers for the formaldehyde, your body actually produces 1,000 times more formaldehyde a day than will be in a serving of aspartame. And your body needs it, and it breaks it down into that formic acid, which your body can use. Excessive formaldehyde actually ends up getting peed out. But because it was a thing, right, they studied that portion too. Again, They really studied this thing, and they gave people 50 times the recommended daily dose of aspartame for 23 days and tested their blood every day, and after 23 or 28 days they're like, there's no increased levels of formaldehyde here, so why are we even bothered, because this is 50 times the amount that we're recommending, and still no increase, because your body will actually just break it down and pee it out. But again, formaldehyde at high enough levels will cause cancer. It's a known carcinogen, but those levels are so high, again, you apply that to water and you'll die of water intoxication and low sodium. So
well, and is there a connection to that somebody that would drink 15 or 20 sodas a day is probably going to have some overall bad living habits anyway?
Yeah.
So, and or other items in excess that are not good for them, so they're going to probably be predisposed to kidney issues and things like that.
Oh, for sure. And actually, this was one of the things I read. This doctor that I've liked in the past, he
he's like, cut him off.
Oh, you're dead to me. But he was like, there was a study done in 2017 that he points out that, the purpose of a low calorie sweetener is to reduce your caloric intake, because we need to lose weight in America, because most of us are fat and obese.
But we go through drive-thrus and we get a Big Mac and fries and then we
get
a Diet Coke,
right? So he points out this study done in 2017 showing that the people who consume the most amount of these diet soft drinks actually had a little bit increase of weight gain. And so what's the point then, right? And that was what he was trying to point out. But then it's like, well, is that really the diet? So there's no cause and effect there. It's not the aspartame causing them to get fat, because there isn't anything in aspartame that would cause that increased weight gain. Nobody's saying that, but he kind of threw that out there as look, see?
Well, it's probably going to be the same
evidence.
as increased childhood obesity and, the normalization of social media and electronics. Is it the electronics, or is it just that's a side effect of the kid? It's not them that's actually causing the kids, it's the kids not getting, or the parents not encouraging, so is it the same? It's not the soda that's actually making you fat, it's the fact that you normalize it and say, okay, well, I'm skipping calories here so I can have cake with dinner.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Well, and does it bother anybody else that they actually measure calories in kilocalories? So when they say it's 1 calorie, it's actually 1,000 calories.
It's never even crossed my mind,
No.
Scott.
It bothers me. Well, and that's what they're able to say, that there's...
Scott's all, go metric.
I am go metric. You guys know this.
I know that.
But again, even in the metric system, they still measured in food in kilocalories.
Right.
And I just remember in science class them burning the marshmallow, and they say, oh, we burned this many calories. And I'm like, holy cow, there's that many calories in marshmallows? Yeah. And he was like, oh, actually divide that by 1,000, and that's your food calories. So when there's 35 milligrams of aspartame in, a dose here, they said 0 calories. Well, not really. There's kind of 35 there.
Oh, whoa.
But it's not. I don't know. It just bothers me. I like specifics, I guess.
We're aware of that.
And so I'll stop being so annoying with it. Where'd we get out? So methanol. it does break down into formaldehyde, and that will then turn into that formic acid. And that formaldehyde is a known carcinogen, but those levels are so high that you would die of something else before that carcinogen of formaldehyde in your body. So for those folks, I think you know one recently who said that, and I was like, yeah, at high enough levels, but you're not going to get that unless you're drinking
a ton of it.
Not only 17, but times that by 100, because that's the safety margin. So 1,700 sodas a day. Seriously?
Well, what about the potential for a lot of our foods having this in it? So we talked about gums and jellies, and would there be increased risk for Americans or anybody that has almost all of our foods with hidden?
Well, and that's why there are over 6,000 foods with this in it, or products, I should say, not just foods, because gums and other things have it. And so that was a very legitimate thing, right? Your body's producing 1,000 times more formaldehyde. Are we then on top of that giving too much? And so that's why they did the study at 50 times the amount, and they were like, okay, your body's normally producing it, and now we're going to give you 50 times the daily recommended amount, not 50 times one dose. And so you're going 50 times those 17 servings or whatever, and you're still no increased risk. So if you're eating 50 separate foods with it in it, you're still not increasing that formaldehyde to where there's zero problems anyway. There was also a lot of people say that the taste and the flavors, they'll give them headaches and lethargy and depression and all those other things. And so again, they studied that one too, because anytime they bring it up, and after they were giving people placebo pills and there was zero cause and effect, not even like 1%. It was like zero.
That's boring.
It is boring that there's nothing wrong with it.
Controversy. Well, and I think I just don't like the taste of it, and I always felt like it was forced, and so I wanted there to be something wrong with it. But again, I think it's kind of personal bias. I mean, I know even back to Theodore Roosevelt, who was trying to manage his weight, he argued with chemists and scientists at the time that were trying to say these, aspartame was, or was it saccharin was bad for you.
I remember that quote. He actually called them dumb. People who would do it are idiots.
Yeah. Well, and this was back in the jungle of Sinclair. There was all this controversy and stuff. So all the way back in the early.
It's okay, Trump. Let's just throw stuff out there.
Let's just make it up because But poor Theodore had a weight problem and he didn't want it to be bad.
He needed to drop a few pounds. And the controversy exists because you have those people out there who do point out very true and valid things at high enough levels it'll cause these problems, but then they never say what those levels are.
Right.
And one of my favorite one was actually, he's a really famous guy, and in there he's talking about, he actually brings up an open letter that a doctor wrote to that European Food and Drug Administration. A doctor wrote a response to their thing saying that there's no problems, and he said, see, look, this guy's even saying there's problems, and they didn't actually include studies that showed bad side effects because they said they were biased. And so the European Food and Drug Administration is biased because they want to make money off of this for some reason. And then so you read all this, and then you go down to the bottom of his page, and he's like, and buy my book if you want to know more. And I'm like, okay, kettle, what color is that pot, I mean, come on.
Yeah, people are pushing their own agendas, and then they get this following. It's like Bitcoin. It's valuable because people think or are trying to...
Stocks, right? It's only worth what you think it is.
Right.
Yeah.
So, can we at least maybe study the fact or suggest the fact that maybe a lot of sugar-free items, and I'm not sure which one, if it's aspartame or saccharin or what it is, but can cause tremendous gas in people?
Can it?
Oh, have you never done this to anybody?
Oh.
Okay,
I've tried those gummy
the sugar-free candies for diabetics and stuff. If you eat, and it even I've seen warnings on it. If you eat a large quantity of it, it will cause. It
hasn't affected me.
I worked with somebody who didn't know they were sugar-free, and he tends to be very much a sugar addict. And so we just set out this big, large bowl of sugar-free gummy bears, and I'm not kidding. There was problems.
Well, that's interesting you mentioned that, because one of the things I was reading on aspartame talked about there's not really been good studies on how it affects gut bacteria.
Yeah.
Because sugars, I mean, your gut bacteria, there's so many different types, and there's not really been a lot of good studies on that aspect of aspartame.
Right.
There's been, I mean, so many on these others. So they said they need to focus more on that, and so that would
we should have done that as like part of episode today.
Yeah,
like maybe since I don't get gassy easy, maybe I should have eaten like a big jar and see what happens.
This is a small room.
I did try those, and it didn't
do
affect
anything
me.
More than normal.
More, yeah. I was gonna say more than normal, but
this is a
I
small
did
room.
read
Let's
that
not do that.
online in the reviews on Amazon. It will even
Yeah.
say, don't buy them.
Right. Well, and I don't know too though. Again, it would be a good study, but I know sometimes people that are on like Atkins or they're trying to get rid of sugar in their diet, they'll buy those sugar-free candies, and do they just do a lot of that at the same time as also streamlining their diet and getting other carbohydrates and so is it really the sugar-free, or is it that sugar-free in addition to
whatever it is?
Lettuce. Let's blame lettuce.
That taste of sadness, I think, is the... Yeah. But, yeah, so at the end of the day, everything in moderation, right? If you just moderate everything, you're going to be fine.
Well, and I kind of feel like just like this display of options at the coffee bar at our local pilot station, maybe you pick the one that is most agreeable with your palate. So for me, I would say that Splenda is probably the least offensive. Like it tastes the most, closest to real sugar. I've tried stevia products and it's okay, but I know Equal and Sweet and Low to me are very, very obvious.
Is this called Zing?
I don't know. I bought that, I think, because I knew my mom was coming to town and she would like shun my sugar. So I got that thinking that might satisfy. So I've had that for a long, long time. And I think I tried it and didn't care for it.
I like this slogan, Born Sweet. Just naturally
well,
sweet.
It's stevia. It's funny because stevia is touted as like the natural sugar because it's like a derivative of a leaf like a plant.
Oh, that's not good.
No.
It's sweet, but I don't like it.
Do you like it more than, say, Sweet and Low?
Are you going to try to get me to get 97 packets of this down me today before?
Try it. And the funny thing is they even have the sugar in the raw and just the plain sugar.
Mm-hmm. I like the sugar in the raw. I put that in my coffee a lot.
Yeah. Imagine you're a chemist.
I know. It's pretty similar. There's more like an acidity taste to this one.
Yeah. Well, don't they add something to that? Well, I know years ago when saccharin was first discovered, to get rid of that acid taste, they added something to it, some sort of a chemical, and I don't remember what it's called.
Oh, there's some ingredients that I just tore apart here. So some sort of base to get rid of it, I'd imagine. Saccharin, dextrose. So dextrose, really. Of course it's sweet.
Look at him. He's almost chemist offended. Okay, so try the Splenda now, because Splenda is supposed to be the more modern. Like, wasn't Splenda actually done on purpose?
Well, this one's suitable for people with diabetes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I thought Splenda was done on purpose. Like in the early 2000s, like Splenda was created on purpose. Yeah, it wasn't like this chemistry accident like the rest of them.
That one actually tastes the best.
Yeah, see, I
like
told
that.
you.
That one, I remember coming out in like high school.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, and it also is the best for baking. Splenda is. Like, they'll actually, like, bags of it, and a lot of people, like, on low-carb diets and stuff will, like, bake with Splenda. I think Equal you can't bake with, because at high temperatures, it loses its sweetness, if I remember right.
Gotcha.
Well, and this one is, again, dextrose and sucralose, so,
yeah
of course it's sweet. But they've got maltodextrin.
That's in this one, too.
Maltodextrin.
I think that's the stuff that gives you gas.
Is it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
We need to Google that.
I know.
Maltodextrin. Somebody should let us know. Is that what's causing gas?
Speaking of which, I was reviewing some of our previous episodes, and I laughed because we always say, well, we'll have to add that video, or we'll have to take a picture of April's mask, and we never do any of that. Yeah. We need like an assistant that takes care of all this for us.
We do need to mention, and we want to apologize, that on every single one of our episodes so far, we say, go to our podcast, go to our website, and then you do, and there's nothing We are technologically challenged. We do not do tech for a living. we would like to thank Dump a Day and Today I Found Out for helping us, because they are helping us.
They are.
But we've been having some technical problems with the server size that it allows for themes. So very soon, hopefully by the time this video's up, you can actually go to our podcast and website. But until then, enjoy us on YouTube.
Yeah.
But we will get it up for you, so apologize to those people who are like, what the heck, guys? Keep telling me to do stuff, and then I do it, and you're like, they probably think we're joking, and like, look at them.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't had any angry comments about it not being running, so maybe no one cares.
That's probably more of the greater truth there. No one really cares and no one's checking it.
Yeah, it's not like we have lots of subscribers. I mean, the 7 people per video that are watching.
We've even not named our skeleton, hoping that somebody will get this itch to want to name it for us, and that hasn't happened either. So
I want to know who Fox is. They're like the only really like consistent commenter.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to know what the Fox says, to be honest.
I think that's got to be a tagline for something. Like, that's got to be like our...
Well, someone that I was on vacation with recently, it came out he subscribed to us because he was like, oh, you're up to whatever number of subscribers. I was like, do you watch our show?
Is that person Fox?
And I said, are you the Fox? and he didn't comment back. So,
interesting.
So I'm going to throw him under the bus. But Sean, are you the Fox?
I think he is.
Because really, how many subscribers do we have right now? Not very many.
Yeah. They're all related to us in some way, shape, or form.
Well, judging by some videos I've seen of him going around, he might be the Fox.
He might be the Fox.
He might be. I've got some other damning videos of him recently.
Yes. So at the end of the day, we're saying that artificial sweeteners, there's no studies, there's no fact to say that they conclusively create tumors, cancers, any of those things. Not in excess. So you would need a tremendous amount of any of them over a long period of time to create the medical problems that people think we're creating.
Exactly. So let's just solve it right here. Yes, at high enough levels, they'll cause problems. If you apply those same levels to water, water will kill you. So at recommended daily amounts, there is 0 problems, and that recommended amounts, it's like 100 to 1 safety margin. And those recommended amounts are still pretty excessive.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's boring. So I'm just go Coke, go whole fat foods, and I don't have any reason other than I just don't like the taste, and my mom forced it on me. So
yeah, if you don't like the taste, don't drink it. I drink it just whatever.
Keep your slim
used
figure.
to it. Yeah. This feltness didn't create itself, you know.
Maybe that's my problem. If you like what you've seen today, you can check us out on YouTube or a podcast.
Or visit our website, medicalconfessions.com.